Welcome to the Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and we have a lot to cover today. So, the Honest Hour is live every Monday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget about MOT Today, airs every Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we got Mick and James. I'm a co host on that. Got the other people on MOT there, where we can do a weekly recap of what happened during the week, whether it be economics, political, etc. Here, we talk a lot about what's going on during the week, get into some philosophy, things like that. I'll accept guests in 1 second. And then also, we have MOT Sports on Saturday, so be sure to check that out too. Let's see, we got one guest that wants to come in here, see what they want to talk about to begin with. We got two, actually, so let's start this off. Hang on. So there we go. See if they want to hop on. More than willing to. So, hi Ashley, how are you?
Hi, pretty good. I don't think that we have much free speech in America.
Okay, so that's a topic that you want to start with. Why do you think that we don't have much free speech in America?
Because, if you say certain things, I don't know, it just seems like everybody just shuts everybody down, and if you say, the wrong thing, everybody turns against you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that is that's something that America is struggling with right now. Well, I don't even know that they're struggling with it, that we're struggling with it. I think it's just natural. So, as you can see up there, I don't even think that free speech is a real thing. I think free speech is a myth. It's propaganda. And really what you're experiencing right now is just social ostracization for having different views. And I think that it's a beautiful thing, actually, because then you get to see who is awake and who's asleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I know in school we were taught that we have free speech, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, free speech is definitely a myth. I mean, I can prove it. It's very obvious. Most people are unaware of this because they believe in what the Constitution has stated or is written as. And free speech is a myth basically because of this. You, regardless of what time you've lived in America, regardless of where you live, is it not true that there are repercussions for harsh language? So if you were to call somebody a derogatory term, whether that consequence be them being defriending you, no longer wanting to associate with you, or more serious, where you go to China or Saudi Arabia and you want to talk ill about royalty or politics, you then no longer get to speak on that. And the same thing happens in America too. We have Merrick Garland persecuting teachers who are speaking out against critical race theory. So free speech, to be free, you need to have no boundaries. That's the definition of free. And so there never has been a time in human history where there hasn't been boundaries on speech. Therefore, free speech is a myth.
Well, yeah, and that reminds me, I've seen a lot of videos, for example, on TikTok and stuff, where, the cops come in for some reason, and then somebody's speaking their mind or whatever, and then it all goes up in a blaze of smoke from there because they don't want to hear it. And that just kind of proves how not free a speech we don't have.
Yeah, exactly. Bro projecting hard. I don't know what you're talking about. J Stars, J Staz, however you pronounce it. What's going on? So what did you want to come on and talk about?
Plant-based meat.
All right.
Yeah, why is it gay?
That's great. That's a great question. I love it. Well, it's very simple. It's fake and it's very bad for you. It doesn't have any real benefit whatsoever. It's starvation food. Um, because humans are missing 15 micronutrients from any plant-based diet. And also, they're lying about what is in their nutritional facts. They're actually a lawsuit against Beyond Meats, which is the topic specifically I was going to mention in this. And they're being sued. There's a class action lawsuit because they're lying about the amount of protein. And probably, well, that's what the lawsuit's for. And I'm speculating that there's a bunch of other nutritional facts that they're lying about. But that's why it's gay.
Oh, okay, I got you. Wait, but is it I don't eat plant-based meat, but is it processed meat even pretty bad for you?
Processed meat is not good for you. You're right. This is why on this channel, on this show, this podcast, on this company, MOT Media, we, promote raw, organic animal products. That's where a lot of people get confused when it comes to meat. We just had a comment in here: plant-based food gave me the runs and heartburn. 100% true. I mean, it's bad for you. It really is bad for you. It destroys your gut. Most people don't want to accept that. But it is bad for you. So, yeah, I mean, processed meat isn't great either, but it's 100% better than any plant-based meal that you could have. It has at least 15 micronutrients that plant-based diets are missing. And I mean, yeah, plant-based is bad for you, though. It's not ideal. If you can get a local farmer or have your own meat source, that's awesome. Where it's all organic, they're not jabbed, they're not filled with hormones, grass-fed.
Got you. Yeah, man, that's all I want to talk about. I just thought that was funny. Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
You too.
I have a question. I'm gonna sound stupid.
No.
What does the Trinity mean again? I forgot.
Oh yeah. So the Trinity is it's one Christian view of God, and basically it's God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, in that there's one God but three persons. That's one perspective. I keep emphasizing that that's one perspective of Christian theology. It's not all of Christian theology. A lot of Christians don't believe in the Trinity as such. I don't believe in the Trinity as it is taught. No, that's not right. Trinity is in the Matrix. Hey, my sister's named after Trinity from the Matrix. I would eat process. Go ahead.
Are you talking about is the Trinity involved the Holy Spirit?
Yes.
And okay, I think I know what it is now.
Yep. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the likes. I appreciate that. Yeah. So that's the Trinity. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
How does climate change lead to lockdowns?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So right now in France, they have outdoor events being banned over heat in parts of France, and they're blaming the heat due to climate change. So this is a prerequisite for climate change lockdowns. So you'll eventually see this more and more. That's going to be the new agenda. They got everybody in the mindset of lockdowns because of, the cough and sniffles. And so now they're going to switch it over to climate change. Then we're going to have climate change lockdowns, and we're going to have eco-terrorism. And eco-terrorism is anybody doing harm to the environment. There's actually been a case, I believe, in Belgium where an individual was arrested for stealing somebody's car and forcing them to, that individual whose car was stolen. Other way around. They stole their bike. This person stole their bike, forcing the victim whose bike was stolen to drive their car to work. And so the court then punished the thief as an eco-terrorist because he caused the owner of the bike to have to drive his vehicle, which then polluted the atmosphere. So those are new things that we're going to be seeing here in the future: is climate change lockdowns, eco-terrorism, more intense domestic terrorism as well. But that's what the climate change lockdown is, and what's happening in France right now is a stepping stone to more intense lockdowns.
I guess I just don't understand what's the worst climate change that could happen that's gonna confine us to our houses. Like,
well, it would keep you from driving. It would keep you from driving, and it would keep you from going to work, and a lot of the plants would not be as polluted. So
I see. Okay.
I'm not saying I'm for it, but that's their reasoning. I'm definitely against it. I think it's nonsense, but that's the reasoning behind it. Thank you for all the likes, guys. I appreciate that.
Like, do people just think like do they think like the air is toxic or?
Yeah, a lot of people think the air is toxic. We have Real Eyes. Interesting name. Stating they killed 10K cattle in Kansas to make it hurt more. Yeah, we actually covered that a few days ago. I think it was 2 days ago or last night, one of the two. You are free. I thought eco-terrorism would be who blew up fossil fuel infrastructures. That's part of it. They would be deemed. This is a comment from YouTube. They would be deemed eco-terrorists for doing such things. Then we get another comment here. Well, Ashley, if you don't have anything else, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
I think that's it. You can
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for tuning in. All right. So it says you are free to say whatever you want. However, you're not free from the consequences. Food is coming out. That is right. Oh my God. I just got sent a pride flag. I'm going to have to go bathe and bleach or something. I don't know. You are free to say whatever you want. However, you're not free from the consequences. I don't think that you are free to say whatever you want. I think that there are restrictions on speech, and I think that that's a good thing. Why are chemtrails still a conspiracy? Do we need to fix people's necks? Right? I mean, the government has come out and admitted that they're legit. So everybody who's been denying that, now you can no longer deny it. It's very obvious. So one of the things that I wanted to mention in regards to free speech being a myth is the fact that the White House has just created a task force for online harassment. How so? You can literally say whatever you want. There are consequences for those words, though. Therefore, it is not free. Free means that there's no consequences, there's no repercussions, there's no boundaries to what you can say. So, since there are repercussions, thank you for the cowboy hat. Since there are the mustache, since there are repercussions for what you say, well, then you're not free from your speech. There's always going to be a punishment if you say something that's out of line in the grand community. So right here, so it says Vice President Harris launches task force to shut down online harassment, and it goes on a little bit to say the government on both federal and state level is increasingly trying to police online speech despite several lawsuits and complaints of First Amendment violations. The White House has now created a task force that is set to combat online harassment with a particular angle of addressing it with what it calls gender-based violence. The group met today. Yeah, so the task force was launched by Vice President Harris and is co-chaired by the Gender Policy Council. Never even heard of that before. We'll look into that in a second. And the National Security Council. So, you say things bad about the LGBTQ community, and you are going to be deemed a domestic terrorist. Probably. Aluminum oxide exposure over time has similar effects. That sounds a lot like Rona. Maybe. I mean, that's what some people speculate, but I think it's more so to block the sun. If you're referring to chemtrails, Bill Gates has came out and said that we want to reduce sunlight, and the sun is very, very, very powerful. We need the sun to live, and it's good for our mental health. It's good for our physical health. I think that's the bigger agenda. It's to block out the sun, not so much to have chemicals spraying from the air that's going to have deleterious effects on humans. I think it's more so to just block out the sun. So to continue with this article, it says this task force was established following the mass shootings in Buffalo, New York, and Uvalde, Texas, where there were allegations that incidents were exacerbated by social media. The Buffalo shooting in particular was used by New York City. Increase the peace with Greece, right? Yep, plant-based meat is not called meat. Yeah, it is not meat. It is not meat at all. That's moist. I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. And then, if you guys didn't know, the New York City governor, Kathy Hochul, I'm not even sure how you pronounce her last name, ushered in social media legislation, basically making it so the police would monitor online activity and punish people for saying the baddest things, the most harmful things. So those are things that we're going to be facing in the future, which is why I haven't really been considering this, but I should consider getting a ham radio. That way, once we are no longer allowed to speak as freely as we are speaking right now, because it'll be deemed hate speech and I'll be considered a domestic terrorist and I don't want to go to jail, I'll have to get a ham radio and go AM. But in order to do that, first, we need to build up a strong, solid audience. So that's why we're doing this first. So hopefully we can beat the censorship and the tyranny that's coming our way, build up a strong audience, and then we can switch over to beef radio, tasty, right, hand radio, So that'll be the goal, Then you'll hear it. Then you'll ham radio is where it's at. Yeah, for sure. So eventually you're going to be hearing this mellifluous voice over AM. Well, free speech doesn't mean freedom of consequences. But what does free mean? What does free mean by definition? That's my whole point. Like, what does free mean by definition? Are you not speaking freely? I am speaking freely. And there are repercussions for my speech. I get banned all the time off of TikTok. We get censored all the time off TikTok. Same with YouTube. So I've had to alter my speech in order to prevent that from taking place. If I could speak freely, I'd say a bunch of stuff. But it isn't real. It's a myth. Freedom isn't free, but it belongs to you and me. Yeah, okay. Freedom comes at a great cost, though. Like, if you want to become like, there is no such thing as freedom to begin with. You are never free. You're either a slave to the system or you are submitting to God's will. Those are the only two choices you have. It is pretty binary. You submit to the system or you are a servant to God's will. There is no freedom as such. I do believe that we have free will and that we can choose which path we want to go down, but ultimately there's two paths, whether you know it or not. Now, those two paths can reveal themselves in various ways. They don't have to be stagnant. God doesn't exist. He logically and mathematically exists. Anybody that can do simple deduction and induction can philosophically prove that God exists. And Christopher Langan, who is the recorded world's smartest man with the highest IQ, can prove it mathematically. God is my home. God is, yeah, that's right. No, you are incorrect. Okay, top whatever your name is, you're incorrect. Where does energy come from? Jess Mutt. All right, Jess Mutt, give me 1 second here. Let's let Jess Mutt back in. See what he has to say. Free, not under the control or power of others, able to act, done by one's wish. Hey, Jess Mutt, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up? I see you're talking about free speech, and I wanted to not so much put in my own opinion, but give you some information to help you rattle around your brain.
All right.
So you understand that free speech cannot be hindered, specifically when you're in a public space. If you're out on the streets and you got your sign and you want to do your protest or whatever, that's something that cannot be hindered so long as you're not creating a victim. Well,
so then that isn't free speech, right there. So long as you're not creating a victim or inciting violence, therefore there is no free speech.
All right. The premise is that you can exercise your freedoms so long as it doesn't encroach upon somebody else's freedoms.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's just a side note. What I'm really getting to is the discussion about free speech as it appears on public forums, online, and social
so to speak. So a few years ago, I can't remember which state it was, whether it was Mississippi, Alabama, or Georgia. But one of those three states, they had a statewide law that prevented, we'll call them registered men, from enjoying Facebook. They could not have an account on Facebook. It was a state law. If you were registered, you couldn't have an account. There was one individual who was registered and decided that was an infringement on his free speech. And so he fought it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court actually ruled in favor of the individual who was registered. And they decided that the social media platforms are considered the new age version of the public square, where much of common business is held, and therefore free speech should be protected. And of course, once the Supreme Court made that decision, there was a little of a ruffle as far as how people viewed Facebook and how Facebook would respond. So naturally, Facebook looked at this and said, you know what? If the government isn't allowed to censor these individuals, then we're going to do it ourselves. And they went through and systematically got rid of every single account on Facebook that lines up with a registered individual. And now they have their own rule saying that individuals who are registered can't have accounts. And so it transitioned from being government enforced to being corporate enforced. When the government enforced it, it was unconstitutional. But when the corporation enforced it, it became completely legal.
What is a registered individual? What do you mean by that? Maybe I missed that.
SEX crime.
I gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. So basically what you're saying is that the government attempted to, well, they just enforced the Constitution on the Supreme Court level, and then corporations took it in their own hands to then do away with people that they deemed unfit for social media. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah, basically, our Constitution, or at least our Supreme Court, recognizes that on platforms like Facebook and probably even TikTok, we have the constitutional rights and they are protected, but they are only protected from laws of the government. They are not protected from rules from the corporations, the platforms themselves. So they deemed that corporations are allowed to stifle free speech, but government cannot.
Well, the government does stifle free speech already. I mean, we already see this, as we've already mentioned before, and somebody, this is going to answer the question too. They said, Till Van Halla said, so you want to incite violence and create victims, which is where I was going to come up with next. Like, apparently you can't do that under the purviews of the Constitution for free speech. And no, to answer your question, no, that is not what I'm getting at, that I would want to incite violence or create victims. But also, how do you create victims with your speech? That doesn't make any sense to me. It just is nonsense. Just because you have freedom doesn't mean there shouldn't be limitations to freedom. Otherwise, it's chaos. Exactly. So there is no freedom. That's my point. By definition, there is no freedom.
On a personal level, I pretty much agree with your logic behind it 100%. But I also understand the reasonings why it would be considered a crime to yell fire in a theater. Because you can connect the dots very quickly from your exercising your right of free speech to the causing of somebody being bodily harmed.
100%.
Those dots become more greatly enumerated when you exercise your free speech online, and somehow somebody gets hurt in the physical world, and that's why it's far more difficult for somebody to impose a law restricting free speech over a technology as opposed to somewhere very specific like a theater.
100%. And so everybody's clear, I don't agree with free speech to begin with. I think that it's good that there's limitations on speech. There are certain individuals who I think should have no right to speech. And I think that private corporations such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, well, Facebook and Twitter are a weird category because if I'm not mistaken, they do receive some government funding, which then would make it so they would have to follow by the Constitution. But anyway, I am for those platforms doing what they wish with their users. letting them be on or letting them be off. I support that entirely because in my household, I don't allow freedom of speech. I don't. Like, there's certain things that I wouldn't tolerate. You would not be able to come into my house and disrespect me or my family verbally, physically. You would not be able to come into my house and start teaching my children Satanism or teaching my wife Satanism. So there are certain things that I would not allow in my house, as would other people. They are as wouldn't other people as well. So, freedom of speech is a myth, all in all, and nobody should really agree with it, because then you just lead to chaos, and then you can't have any grounds. You can never say, well, you can't say that to me. You can never say that. Then we have somebody in here saying Satanism is more peaceful than Christianity. Okay.
So I'm unaware of Facebook receiving any government funds, but I am a little learned about the debacle between political ads being aired and how the algorithms would either silence a certain side or enhance a certain side. And so when that came up to, I think it was Congress, Facebook simply had to prove that they were unbiased. And so long as they could prove that they were unbiased, then they would receive certain protections. They would gain certain rights and freedoms, much like an individual would. But the moment that they failed to prove that, or somebody proved that they were in fact biased towards a political ideology, then they could no longer consider themselves a public square in that sense, and they would lose much of their own. I think it related to more of a tax haven of some sort. But that's what it came down to. But I'm unaware of the government funding Facebook. Do you have any more information on that?
I've heard it from somebody that I trust. He's another streamer. He's a comedian, actually. His name's Owen Benderman. He's mentioned it before. I haven't done much research into it myself, but what I do know is provable is that DARPA attempted to come up with something similar to Facebook before Facebook, and they are now working with Facebook and have been for quite some time. So that is a government entity. I don't know if that's what he was referring to when he mentioned that they received government assistance, or if it was something different entirely. But I think YouTube is also in that same category. But once again, I don't have like hard documents and information that I can direct you to. It's just other individuals that I trust. They could be wrong. I could be wrong saying this as well, but I am taking it off of trust that they are correct on their information. They could be wrong, and then therefore I would be wrong. But I do know that DARPA and Facebook do work together. That is a provable fact.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
So, yeah, and then let's address some of this stuff here. So, Satanism, Satanists are just atheists. I don't agree with that. I think that they believe Satan is God. I know people who are, who self-proclaim Satanism, and they literally hail Satan. There is freedom of speech, but also freedom to retaliate back. Without freedom, you cannot talk. No, that isn't true. You can talk with or without freedom. You don't need freedom to talk. That logic makes no sense. And also, if there is retaliation, then there is no freedom. And is 2,000 Mules about the 2,000 mules Bobart served while running the escort service? Maybe. Conspiracies. I have not watched 2,000 Mules. Have you?
I have. Well, I had to skim through it because while they have really good meat, the meat is it has a lot of dressing on it, so to speak, and there's a lot of scenes where the author and some of his colleagues are simply discussing the meat, and it was unbearable to watch that aspect. When they got into the nitty gritty, the video evidence and the explaining of it, it was pretty decent.
Yeah, I've heard good reviews from it from pretty much everybody who's brought it to my attention, or I've heard talk about it on a podcast. Maybe I'll check it out. I don't know, though. I mean, we already know what happened. I mean, anybody who could do simple math could, come to the conclusion that, that what took place in 2020 wasn't legit.
Yeah, and they introduce actual data.
Okay.
Of course, they don't present the data in its raw form to the audience in the film, but they claim they have the data, and then they have professionals that explain how they followed the data to reach their conclusions.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I heard too. I want to address something in the comment sections here. It says Satan is a title, it just means the adversary. Satan is very real, and so no, not anything can be any obstacle in life cannot be considered Satan, because God can be viewed as adversarial. At times, if you have an obstacle in life that God is presenting you with, well, then you could then say God is Satan. So I don't agree with that at all. And then we have another comment here. It says, imagine they allow a certain amount of sawdust and non-meat products in commercial meat. Yeah, they do that. And nobody here is promoting processed commercial meat. What we promote here is raw, organic animal products, straight from the farm, localized sources. Factory farms, they serve their purpose, though, because without factory farms, I don't know that the population would be able to grow as big as it has. There's a lot of arguments that we don't have enough animals to sustain all humans here. I could be wrong, though. Only if you believe that God, the Christian God, is real. You don't even have to believe that the Christian God is real. You just have to know that there is a God. And then if there is a God, therefore there's a spectrum from then good to evil. And then on that spectrum, at the far end of that spectrum, there's going to be another entity that is representative of evil, and that representative of evil is going to be Satan, or the evil one, or whatever you want to call him. It doesn't even have to be Satan. It can be devil. It could be Satan, as the Muslims call him. It could be the evil one. It doesn't have to be Satan. So, and then we have.
So have you heard the idea of chaos versus order in the universe?
Yes.
So I kind of stumbled upon that in my own thinking. So it was all internal when I kind of came to my own conclusions based off this, and that is actually what allowed me to kind of open my heart to the concept of a creator that led me to be accepting the Christian faith when I was a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so
yeah, I mean, there is order in the universe, and therefore if there's order in the universe, there has to be a entity making sure things are in order. There has to be, logically, there has to be a first mover if there's any order.
At the very least, a designer that set things in motion, and the principles of the universe carry the order along throughout time.
100%. So then Till Valhalla said, well, I don't believe in the Christian God or Satan. That's okay. I'm not here to convince you to believe in the Christian God or Satan. I actually think that religions are sort of like a hierarchy. Me personally, I think Christianity is at the top of the hierarchy because of Jesus Christ. I think that he is the perfect example of what a human should be. I have a much different view of him, though, than a lot of Christians. I don't believe that he is the only Son of God. I believe that we're all children of God, and that Jesus Christ was showing us how to reclaim our position on this earth in being the children of the ultimate creator. So I don't believe that Jesus is the only Son of God. I don't believe that at all. And I think that, once again, religions are hierarchical. So there's better religions and worse religions, but there's truth in all religions. And there's a lot of bad in a lot of religions as well. And then somebody just asked, is English your first language? It is. It's my only language. I believe in the Norse gods. Till Valhalla says, cool. I mean, there's truth in the Norse gods as well. However, when you get into polytheism, it becomes very disorderly and illogical over time. There has to be one ruler. There has to be one ultimate God, and it doesn't make sense that you would worship or follow lesser deities than God himself, or itself, whatever you want to call it.
May I ask you, are you a Unitarian?
Unitarian meaning like I don't believe in the Trinity?
Yes.
Correct. I mean, I do believe there is a Trinity, but it's not how it's described. So I will go over that right now, since that's one of the topics that I was going to cover. So the Trinity, there is truth to the Trinity. You can look at a man and a woman can make a baby. That's like a physical form of the Trinity. God, is God necessary? God is absolutely necessary, or else you would not be able to form sentences and have order in the world logically. There doesn't have to be one ruler. There does have to be one ruler. There does have to be. Logically, there has to be one ruler. There has to be somebody at the top of the hierarchy where the rules are disseminating from. There has to be logically. There can be other entities below them, like angels, saints, prophets, messiahs, etc. But there has to be one God. There has to be one ruler. There's that way. No, look at how countries are ran. All countries have one ruler. All functional countries have one ruler. All functional tribes have one ruler. So then you can extrapolate that the creator of the universe would have to be one. So getting back to what I was saying in regards to the Trinity, a man and a woman come together, they make a child. That's a form of a physical Trinity. But when it comes to God and the Godhead, as it's called in Christianity, so there's the Father, God, and then people want to say that Jesus Christ is the second part of the Trinity, where, so the belief in the Trinity is that there's one God, three persons in the way that he shows himself. And one way that he shows himself is through Jesus Christ. The other way that he shows himself is through the Holy Spirit. In that Jesus Christ is the only Son of God. And Jesus Christ came here, died for all of our sins, and taught us how to live. And we have to follow and worship Jesus Christ because he is God in the flesh. I don't believe in that entirely. Here's what I think Jesus Christ represents in the Trinity. Jesus Christ represents man. If you look up in the Hebrew, the Son of Man translates over into a word that I forget at the moment, but it literally translates in Hebrew as humanity. So every time Jesus is referring to himself in the third person as a Son of Man, it actually translates literally into humanity, if I'm not mistaken, if memory serves me correct. So you can then conclude from there that Jesus Christ is then representing all of humanity and then is a embodiment of what the perfect man should look like. Not that he is the only perfect man and not that he is the only Son of God, because Jesus Christ even said that we are all brothers and you are my brothers and sisters. So therefore, if Jesus Christ says that you are his brothers and sisters, you can no longer say he's the only Son of God. That then logically falls apart. Additionally, it would make no sense that if Jesus Christ was God at the same time, like the creator, like actually God, it would make no logical sense that Jesus Christ would tell us that you, after I'm gone, will do better things than me. Because that would then imply that you can do better things than God himself if Jesus Christ is the only God. Jesus does say we are gods. Yes, this is true. And so it would make no logical sense then to be like, yo, I'm God, but you can do better things than me, because then you're saying that you can do better things than God. Additionally, when he taught his disciples everything that he knew, he then told them that you can cast demons, you can raise the dead, you can walk on water, you can turn water to wine. So all the miracles Jesus allegedly did could have been done by any other man who had the faith and the discipline to follow God. So I view, in that sense, Jesus is a representation of what humanity should aim for in order to connect with God. And then as far as the Holy Spirit, this is another thing that most people forget in the Christian belief system. Jesus allegedly didn't have the Holy Spirit until after he was baptized, and that's when the Holy Spirit descended upon him. And I believe that the Holy Spirit is that which allows us, it's that bridge, it's that connector to God. So then you have Jesus, which represents both the ego and the spiritual side. And so Jesus is representing how the ego, the physical body, and our spiritual body can then connect with God. And so that's what I believe the Trinity represents. It doesn't represent that we are excluded out of the Trinity. We are actually a part of the Trinity. So we got some comments here. Let's see. So we all should be in God's be. I don't know what that means. We are all God's children. Jesus as well, 100%. Mohammed is God. I don't think even the Muslims would agree with that. We are all God's. He was anointed. Yeah, that's what Messiah means. And there were many individuals before Jesus that were anointed. Therefore, there were many Messiahs before Jesus. We are all God's. I think that we are all God's children. And we can be connected with God. The anointed one equals the Messiah. You're 100% all right, Omega 7982. Floki is Moses. I don't know enough about Norse mythology to say that analogy is 100% correct or not. But we'll go with it. We'll go with it, Tito. No, only one anointed to show the way. That's not true. There were many anointed individuals way before. I believe David was anointed. I believe Moses was anointed. And they all had their purpose.
So my hot take on
What? Why did I just get kicked off from this? This makes no sense. All right, so now we're going to hop over to MOT Today, go live on MOT Today, and go from there. So, yeah, not sure what happened there, but we'll pick it right back up here. All right, so we were just discussing what the Trinity is. So, yeah, now I'm just trying to get back the setting I had here. So, yeah, everybody that's joining in, we just got banned off of TikTok Live on MOT News. Don't know why. We were talking theology, and we got kicked off. So here we are on this backup channel. We can resume conversation. Jesus, right. I know, like, Tito, you witnessed that. Literally, we were saying nothing hateful. Like, if anything, the past couple of streams have been much more intense than the stream we were just doing on MOT News. There was no need to be banned whatsoever. So I'm not sure why we just got kicked off and suspended for it. Maybe it's because of these people in the comment sections, but it makes no sense. So this is what I have to deal with. This is what I have to deal with. When you're over here spitting some truth, you're getting persecuted all the time, I suppose. I'm over here being a good Christian boy, spreading the word of the Bible, spreading the word of God, right? Talking about the Trinity, the truth of the Trinity. And wow, nail me to the cross. Right. I mean, this is, I don't know what this is. This is like maybe the third or fourth time. What happened to the last live? We got suspended. It said I had hateful behavior. It said I was being hateful. So this is what I have to deal with. You guys witness this now, which is why we have multiple accounts. But this account, aside from the live streams, it's shadow banned entirely. The way that you can tell if an account is shadow banned is to go to your analytics and then see where you're getting most of your views from. And if you're getting no views from the For You page, you are being shadow banned. And that's what we experienced here. We're shadow banned on this page for any post. You see that we almost have 40,000 followers. And if you go back throughout our past post a few months ago, you'll see that we were getting 10,000, 100,000 views. The top one had 1.3 million views. So, this channel was growing really well. And then we got knocked down, which is why we're building up MOT News. But thankfully, we have backup accounts, which is why we're also working on MOT Sports. Got to be smart with censorship. So you got to have multiple platforms that you can hop on, as we're doing right here. But literally, we were just talking about theology, and they suspended the live stream because they deemed it hateful behavior. Don't worry, though. I appealed it, and we've been on a roll this past week. I've made 2 TikTok videos that have been taken down for a quote-unquote community violation. Then they repealed them. They said, yo, you're right. We'll put them back up. So I'm hoping the same thing will take place with this stream. What's that mean? Yeah, so no hate was in that live. I 100% agree with you, Tito. It was all love. It was all love. So what do I mean by that? First off, I'm being rhetorical. I'm catching attention by it. And the reason I'm catching attention to get people's attention for the fake meat is because it's actually very bad and it's insidious for human beings to consume. And also, there's a class action lawsuit against Beyond Meat specifically because they are giving false nutritional facts on their products. The main one that they're being sued over is protein, that they put too much protein. It's algorithm, maybe. So they're alleging they have a certain amount of protein, but they're actually like they have 1/5 of the alleged amount of protein that is actually in there. But yeah, so as far as plant-based meats, they're all really dumb because they're all missing 15 micronutrients. All plant-based diets are missing 15 micronutrients. And then for every Karen and Gamma in there that's going to be like, well, you can take supplements. You can just go ahead and pop your pills in order to get this. But wouldn't use that term. Well, good thing you're not the one making the show because it got your attention, though, did it not? That's the goal. That's the goal here. I think it's fake, and I think it's GAY. All right? That's what I think in my heart of hearts. Plant-based meat is fake, and it's GAY. But yeah, so, before you go over and say, are we sure Paige didn't report you, JK, respectfully? No, yeah, I'm sure she's passed out, man. She's passed out for this one. She's in the room sleeping with the girls. So we co-sleep, which we actually just had to get a king-size bed because the girls are getting so big, and now we have a third one on the way. How about vitamins are unhealthy? Nobody said vitamins are unhealthy. I'll get back to that in a second. I love you all, and I'm all about that meat, Tito. Oh my God, maybe you're the reason I got banned. But no, we got a king size bed because we co-sleep with our kids. We have twin daughters, and we have another one on the way, and so we need a bigger bed. So we got a king size bed, and so she's been, really enjoying the king size bed. I'll let you in a second, Jess Mutt. Congrats, Mazel Tov. Thank you. Yeah, it's really comfy. It's really nice. For a while I had to sleep on the floor in the room or sleep on the couch because the bed wasn't big enough for all of us. So I've been, for the past 2 years, pretty much allowing my wife and the girls to sleep in the bed while I sleep on the floor or I sleep on the couch occasionally. Now we got the king size bed, so now I'm sleeping back in the bed. So getting back to keep going on about how vitamins are unhealthy. Vitamins are not unhealthy. Vitamins are an essential part of life. You need them in order to live. What I am criticizing are the supplements. There is actually, if you do really deep research into it, you find that there is actually no proof that the synthetic vitamins are able to be converted the same way that you get the vitamins from the animal products. Therefore, they're not as beneficial, and they also contain kerosene. All supplements do, if I'm not mistaken. And if you want my source on this, you can just read studies on these that show that you can't really convert it, just like you can't convert vitamin A from carrots, and you can't convert a lot of vitamins and nutrients from plants. Hence why you're missing 15 micronutrients and you're extracting very little from plants because we can't digest them, as I've mentioned numerous times before, because you need to be able to ferment plants. And in order to ferment plants, you need to have bacteria doing so. But we have acid that digests our food, which is why we are carnivorous. It's one of the reasons why we're carnivorous and plant-based. So yeah, vitamins are crucial. And we have another comment here that says, man-caused climate change is also fake due to quantum mechanics of the CO2 molecule. Have no clue what you're saying with the quantum mechanics. But I do believe, climate change isn't fake. It's provably not fake. Do you know what the 4 seasons are? I mean, climate change is provably real. What is provably fake is global warming. But climate change is objectively very real. Breaking news. Fox is reporting that Trump's pronouns are he, she, it's. Nice. Well, I don't know, man. I do plant-based and I'm healthy. I get physicals regularly. You'll be healthy for a few years. And the reason why most people can go and thrive and have healthy experiences off of, I'm explaining this to you right now. And no, it's not off. It's biologically sound what I'm saying. We have a very similar digestive tract to dogs and cats are carnivorous. Why else would we domesticate dogs and cats to hunt? It doesn't make any sense. And also, we have canine teeth. And once again, lab grown meat is the future. It is the future. It definitely is the future. It doesn't mean it's a good future. Haha, try 27. 27 years you've been on a plant-based diet. I've been doing anybody, yeah. Are you a nutritionist? You know a lot. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not. I've just done a lot of research on this particular topic. Have you seen hippos eat all they eat is plants? Yeah, and they have to eat a lot of hours throughout the day. Like, people will use these arguments like, what about a gorilla? A gorilla is really strong, but a gorilla has to eat like 16 hours a day. And also every herbivore eats meat as well. Most people are unaware of this. I've shared this fact numerous times. All animals eat meat, but there are herbivores and there are carnivores. Humans are biologically designed to be carnivorous. And so you cannot live healthily for 27 years on a plant-based diet. I do not buy it when anybody tells me that, because first off, most people who get into a plant-based diet are doing it because your information is off. Maybe Beyond Meat has a lawsuit. It does. But as I was saying, most people who are on a plant-based diet, they typically do it for morals and ethics, which is not wise, in my opinion, because the cycle of life is life and death. And you have to kill a plant in order to eat the plant. The plant is alive. There's been many studies done. I mean, at least there's been one study that comes to my mind that's been done that shows that plants are sentient. They don't want to be eaten. They have many chemical defenses to prevent humans from eating them. Many. And herbivores have the digestive tract and the biological design to combat those toxins, and they're actually not toxins to them. And so anybody who claims to be on a plant-based diet for 27 years, I'm willing to bet that you've eaten eggs. I'm willing to bet that you've drinking milk. I'm willing to bet that you've maybe had fish throughout that time, which is an animal-based product. And I'm also willing to bet that a lot of the individuals, I'm willing to bet like thousands of dollars on this, a lot of the individuals who claim to be plant-based for several years, more than 5 years, because typically by the time somebody who's really trying to go vegan or vegetarian reaches the 5-6 year mark, who are doing it the right way, quote unquote, they look skin and bones. They look like a skeleton. They have low libido. They have low testosterone. Their estrogen is out of whack. And they're just much weaker. Their cognitive abilities can significantly drain. It's just a very unhealthy way of life. Yeah, it's hard to. Dude, when's the last time you went to a gym? Don't tell me about health when you're a cupcake away from diabetes. Dude, I never claimed to be the healthiest man. Plus, I do have a dad bod, man, which is actually normal. This is very, very normal. Do you know most people? That's another thing. First off, if you're on a plant-based diet, your chances of having children diminish greatly because your fertility is hindered by a plant-based diet. I've had 3 children in 2 years. I'm very fertile. Well, one's on the way. God willing, she'll be here in September. Yep, I can confirm recovered vegan of 5 years. Thank you, LOL, I'm a biochemist. I love to learn more about these toxins you speak of. Okay, well, I guess I'm athletic and plant-based. Yeah, and I don't think that you can live a comfortable, sustainable life that way for a long time. And if you try to, you will have to cheat here and there in order to live. You will have to biologically. And as far as you coming at me using ad hominems, I'm speaking truth, I'm speaking logic, and you're over here criticizing me about my weight. I do have a dad bod. I own that. And actually, it's very natural to have fat on you. It's healthy. It's a sign of fertility and it's a sign of health, firstly. So to try and criticize me about my weight is also stupid because it proves that I'm healthy. It proves that I'm loved. And because when you have estrogen in your life, which I have a lot of estrogen in my life because I have a wife, I have nothing but daughters in this house. So yeah, a sign of fertility, really 100% true. Fat is a sign of fertility. Not like obese fat, but fat. You can't do it long term. Try and see for yourself or listen to him or I. 100%. You're using your mythical free speech right now. Boom, debunked. No, these arguments are nonsense. I love you, man. Thank you. Thank you. I did not know that. Thanks. We got somebody that wants to come on. We got two people, so let's let them both on. Let's see what we got going on. All right, what's going on? Stay at home, Chad.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
How are you?
I'm always awesome. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well too, man. I'm glad to hear that you're awesome.
Rad. So I ended up working at a processing plant, and it kind of made me change my mind about eating meat. But at the same time, I was fighting professionally. So I went to a vegan-based diet, and it was disastrous. And I looked great, you know what I mean? I looked the exact same as I do now, where I was pretty jacked still at this, and I was eating like pea protein and hemp protein and all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But my performance suffered tremendously, and I felt like shit all the time. And I was working with a dude who was like a very, very smart nutritionist, right? So that's the guy I was paying to tell me what to do. And a lot of people, they'll tell you like, oh, you can look like this. You can still be a bodybuilder or a weightlifter, but it's not the same as performing. And I just felt in my like day-to-day life like absolute garbage. And that's what a lot of people need to recognize. Because I talk to people on here and they tell me, oh, you can still have the same physique, which is true. I did, really. I looked almost identical, but at the same time, my performance really, really suffered from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that people are wrong about vegan or vegetarian-based diets. And that's why, like now, I don't eat pork because I had to work around pigs and they're very bright. I think they're smarter than my dogs. But you can eat things like mussels that don't have central nervous systems, and clams, and crawfish, because they're basically cockroaches, so who cares? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, there's ways to get around this and still get animal-based protein.
100%. 100%. And thank you for sharing that. This is something that I find that most people have a hard time conceptualizing when we discuss plant-based diets. I mention to people all the time that I've never gone plant-based, by the way, but I have in my past eaten a carb-heavy diet, tried to incorporate greens, things like that in my diet. And what I noticed was I was more bloated. I went to the bathroom a lot more, not pleasantly, and I had a lot more gas. And so this is something that I try to point out to individuals who are trying to go plant-based or are going plant-based, that, and this is the thing, nobody will ever comment to what I'm saying here. Nobody in the comment section ever replies to when I ask them this. Are you very gassy? Are you bloated? Do you go to the bathroom a lot? Nobody answers those questions on a plant-based diet when they are supporting it. And the reason they don't do it is because most people go on a plant-based diet off of a religious thinking, which I understand it. I can empathize with where they're coming from, but they're being tricked. And I do not promote processed meat. I think processed meat is bad for you, but it is better than a plant-based diet. I think the best way to go is raw, organic animal products. That's
so I hunt to support my family.
Nice.
And I fish. So it's basically I kill one elk every year, and then I fish and trap crawfish. So I basically don't buy meat anymore.
That's awesome.
Usually I'll get a Big Mac because I still have hankerings. You know what I mean?
But, I do.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, there's sometimes on a random Wednesday I want that bacon Western cheeseburger.
I totally get it.
But at the same time, I try to do what I can to not support factory farming, just because I worked at a processing plant and it was horrific.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad.
Yeah, I had an uncle who worked at a processing plant, and he told me, it was hard for him to eat that food ever again. Although, I mean, he ate the food, but it was just it played a role in his diet for a little while. It traumatized him to see what went on there and how they were treated, and also just it's kind of disgusting, I guess, the settings.
It really is. Yeah, it really is, because you develop a relationship with these animals, you know, and they end up being kind of like your ancillary pets,
Right.
and then you have to do horrific things to them. So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's I'm sure a difficult job. It's a necessary job. Getting back really quick to one of these comments here, the biochemist. Can you please cite evidence of your claims? Well, we have some real life evidence in here, but let me guess, since you're a biochemist and you have your degrees, you're going to say that's anecdotal evidence. Give me peer-reviewed studies where there's hundreds of studies. Dude, do your own research. You went to college, you know how to do research. Do your own research. Find alternative sources. It's not that hard. And also listen to real life people when they tell you their experience.
Yeah, I think that's important. You know, I went to law school, and like I understand reading peer-reviewed studies, and like I had to take all these stupid courses in psychology and stuff. But at the same time, people react differently to different things. I can eat a jar of peanut butter. My buddy Tony, if he eats a fucking teaspoon of it, he dies.
Yeah, yeah.
He's allergic to it. So people, I'm sure that there's a ton of people who can be on a plant-based diet and perform perfectly normally, right? But people like me, apparently, cannot.
I don't think that that's true. I disagree with that, and here's why I say that. First off, we need to maybe set some foundation here, you know, just like in a philosophical discussion, get some definitions straight. So, do you believe, and now let me preface this, I believe that humans are spiritual. I believe that we are intelligently created by God, but I also recognize that there is a physical element to humans, and that we have a biology and a physiology. And for that reason, I would say that humans are a type of animal. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you agree that wolves, bears, squirrels are all animals as well?
Absolutely.
Cool. Do squirrels, bears, and wolves have specific animal diets to their species?
I saw a bear one time go into a 7-Eleven and eat ice cream.
Fair enough. There's exceptions to the rule.
I'm just trying to bring some levity.
No, I get it. I like it. I love it. But as a whole, you would say that they have a specific diet, that they don't typically deviate from that diet.
Sure, dude. My dog is he's 6 years old. He gets equally as excited every morning as since he was 6 months old to eat the same kibble.
Right.
That's his deal.
So then we can comfortably say that animals have a specific diet.
Sure.
And if humans are animals, humans then too have a specific diet. They have a human diet.
I think that it varied over the last couple thousand years, but yeah.
Yeah, so I do agree with you. It has varied, and this is something that I want to point out too. I mean, you went to law school, so a lot of people on here, when I have these conversations with them, they can't either follow the logic or they just, because I'm sure you are fully aware of this. Most people operate on rhetoric, hence why I have the topics up here worded the way that they are. Most people don't operate off of dialectic, which is what I'm doing.
So I also, if we're being completely honest, I dropped out of law school. So.
Okay. Well, you say, hey, I dropped out of college too. I was actually going to go to law school. I was going to get my degree in history, but then I was debt free, and I was like, I'm going to then get into a bunch of debt in law school. Nice. Congratulations on that, man. Hopefully it's doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a fellow business owner myself. I have two businesses. One right here, MOT Media company. We have a couple different podcasts, and then I have a commercial cleaning company as well. So, some salt of the earth, and then we're getting more into the intellectual side with this. But what I was getting at is with humans, a lot of people will say humans have different diets based on where they are geographically, which is kind of true in the sense that they'll eat different meat, but they're always going to eat meat.
I think that's what's available to them.
Yes.
In those geographical locations, not based on like genetics. I think that, so if I lived in Alaska, I would eat a ton of salmon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
However, if I lived in the sub-Sahara, I would eat a ton of game. Like it's just, I think it's just available to them in their geographic locations and not based on their genetics. It's not like,
100%.
I want salmon. Because guess what? If you live in fucking Nairobi, you can't get salmon.
Right. Exactly.
There.
Exactly. 100%. So my argument then concludes with humans are animals, therefore humans have a specific diet, and that diet is a animal-based diet. Because if you look throughout all of nature, humans all need meat to live, because on a plant-based diet, you're missing 15 micronutrients. But on a animal-based diet, you are getting all your nutrients. Whether it's processed or not, you are getting all your nutrients. Not saying that it's good for you to eat processed meat. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that all your nutrients are packed into an animal-based product, whether it be organic or totally manufactured. And it's greatly reduced and altered and can be catastrophic to your body over time if you are having the fake, or not the fake, but the processed hormones injected, jabs, antibiotics, all that stuff. But humans are biologically designed to eat raw animal products. Every natural tribe that we see in history, Weston Price rather, is an individual who conducted a study on this and visited many natural tribes, and he concluded that every natural tribe in the world that he was able to ingratiate himself in and see how they live, concluded that they all eat animal products. Every last one of them eat meat. They get some form of milk. They get some form of blood to drink. And then obviously they will have fruits. But then also they would not have much vegetables, if any at all. You know, so that's like a huge myth people get too with like these foragers that, oh, well, we were hunter-gatherers, and so the gatherers would go and forage and get the nuts and the berries. No, most humans don't eat nuts or seeds because they're indigestible, just like plants, by and large, are indigestible. Birds have a different digestive tract than humans do, which is why they can eat seeds. They have a different way of digesting food. Gorillas, elephants, giraffes, cows have a different digestive tract than humans, which is why they can eat all the vegetation. But it's also why they have to eat for like 10, 20, 14 hours a day. Whereas humans, we can eat one good meal of like some good old raw liver, maybe a steak, and we're good to go for like 12 hours, 14 hours.
Right.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, I think that's design, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that's how we were supposed to be, but I just don't understand people. I go out once a year, right? And I shoot the oldest elk that I can find. Always. And everyone goes, oh, you're a murderer. Like, you're a piece of shit. And I go, I don't know, man. Like, this guy was probably going to die out in the wilderness from starvation or freezing to death or starving. And I gave him a peaceful death rather than being eaten by a cougar, because I live in Nevada.
Okay.
And we have mountain lions. And I basically just put him out of his misery. And then now my family gets to eat for a year, but everyone still gets on my shit about it. Because, like, I'm a comedian now, right? So I do stand-up comedy.
Oh, nice.
And so most of my friends are, like, hyper-liberal. Or, like, just, you know what I mean?
Yep,
like,
I got you.
I'm in the middle. I don't really give a shit about any of that stuff. But they all are like, what the fuck are you doing, man? And I'm like, I put him out of his misery, and now everyone gets to eat for a year, and I don't have to go to the grocery store, and they're yelling at me while they're eating a fucking Carl's Jr. burger. And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about, man?
Right. Why are you even talking to me? We're not in the same league. We're totally different categories.
I went out and froze my balls off for 3 days.
Yeah, dude. I want to go. I've went hunting a couple times, but I've never gotten really into it. I got really into fishing. I grew up in Michigan, so there's a lot of lakes in Michigan.
Oh, cool.
So I got really into fishing, but I haven't been fishing in years.
Are you still up there?
No, actually, I've moved to Ohio a few years ago. Met my wife here and kind of in Northeast Ohio specifically.
Okay, I'm going to Southeast Ohio for a show in like 2 months.
Oh yeah, where at in Southeast Ohio?
Mason or something.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with Mason, Ohio. Yeah, my sister. I remember she had some dance competition years ago in Mason, Ohio. I think it's about like an hour or two from where we're at. We're about 45 minutes away from Cleveland. We're southeast of Cleveland. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to Cincinnati, but then I'm going to Mason, Ohio. My brother moved there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I would.
You guys have maybe the worst food in the country. Out of any state.
Why do you say that?
Because everyone tells me about fucking Skyline chili, and it's terrible.
I've never had Skyline chili. I'd never heard of it.
Oh my god! Take your ass to Cincinnati and try that Skyline chili. It is fucking awful, man.
Well, why would I go try it if it's horrible?
Just to let you know, like I've never been to a state that doesn't have a good food. You know what I mean?
Right.
Except for Ohio. I do like Ohio.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty state in some areas.
Yeah, I went up there to, I interviewed, what's his name? Stipe Miocic.
Not familiar with him.
He was the heavyweight champion in the UFC.
Okay.
He's from Ohio. I went up there to talk to him. Some dumb job. But, yeah. Ohio's all right, but the food there is fucking... It is not good, my man. But I like Ohio.
Nice. Well, where can people find your information for your show if they wanted to? If there's people in Ohio in the audience here and they wanted to, maybe, or even in the future, this will go on podcasts and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Just go to comstockcomedy.com.
You said Comstock?
Yeah, that's my last name.
Okay. Comstock.comedy.com.
Yep.
Let's see.
It's on there.
Is it COM? There it is. Blogspot, right? .blogspot. I think I have it right here. Well, it only has like a blog post from 2012.
What the fuck?
Let me see. Maybe I spelled it wrong. Is it comstock.comedy?
Just have them follow me.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah, so this thing got taken down, I think. I have Texas Horse Hunts at blogspot.com too.
Okay, cool.
It's a fake website I made about hunting horses in Texas.
Do you hunt horses in Texas?
No, me and my friend had a battle about who could fuck with one another worse, and I made a fake Texas horse hunting website and stitched I put his phone number on it.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone called him and yelled at him.
All right.
If you go right now, go to Texas Horse Hunts at blogspot.com. Watch this. I wrote this whole fucking thing. It's ridiculous.
Let's see.
I think you would enjoy this.
Let's see. I got it up right here. TexasHorseHunts.com. A brief history of horse hunting. I see the GIF that you have there. A man just beating a dead horse. Oh man. Horse hunting has a long and storied tradition. Its roots can be traced back to the Middle Ages when horses were believed to be unlucky and to spread disease. Over time, the stigma was lifted and horse hunting became a favorite pastime and activities for the English elite, European elite rather. With the expansion of the British Empire, horse hunting was spread as a tradition throughout the world. King Henry I suck at Roman numerals, but something like that was eighth. Was well renowned for his enthusiasm of horse hunting. He thought horse hunting was by traditional means like sword and crossbow. That's the easy and instituted a policy of horse hunting exclusively by clubs. Is this real, or are you just making this all up?
No, I made it up.
That is really impressive. Like you got me over here thinking that it's real. I'm reading it and I'm like, what? Is this legit or is this just a joke? Go hunting. And there's the number. And then you just have another picture right here. Texas horse hunt, a woman now beating a dead horse. My God. That's awesome.
This motherfucker, he was a comic in Austin, Texas when I was down there, right? And he called the cops and said that I was the head of the Black Panther movement there. And they came to my house.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So then that's why I made this. I was like, all right.
Oh, man.
We would just have this, like, fuck with each other up.
Jeez, that's awesome.
Lawson Bennett. He raised possums.
Okay.
Weird dude.
That is pretty weird. That interesting people. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you coming on, man, and I'll check out your website. I'll be sure to follow you. I'll give you a follow, and I'll do it right now. And
all right, cool, man.
yeah, man.
So long, brother.
See you,
Have
man.
a great weekend, dude.
You too.
So long.
All right. So that was pretty cool. So that guy's a comic. If you guys are interested in that, you can just go follow him. And yeah, so let's see some of these comments that we missed out here. So it says, yes, we are on the top of the food chain. Yes, we are on top of the food chain. And another comment here says, the land of the free, whoever told you that is your enemy. I don't know about that, but definitely not the land of the free. Spirituality is modernized religion to sound better than rules. It also inward focus. I think religion is very inward focus as well. I think that many people have a skewed view, a brainwashed view of what religion is. Free speech only exists for the far left. Free speech doesn't exist at all. Some people find gardening spiritual. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Get another comment here. It says, what's the truth of the Trinity? All right, yeah, let's get into the Trinity. So I explained this a little bit earlier, but we got kicked off the last live stream, so I'll go over it right now. So first, before we get into what I believe the truth to be of the Trinity, thoughts on GAY. I don't think that they're, I mean, what do you mean GAY rights? What do you mean? What do you mean? Like the right to get married? That's fake. It's nonsense. You can't. It's the antithesis of marriage, and it's also the antithesis of love. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for the likes. Thank you for the likes. So the truth of the Trinity. Let's now set the stage with what the traditional view of the Trinity is. And this, may I stress, is a view of certain theologies in Christianity. It isn't the view of all Christians, but the most popular theology in Christianity is the Trinity. And so the Trinity in this theology is as such. There's God, there's the Father, there's the, what is it called? The Godhead. So one God, three persons. So you have God the Father, then you have Jesus Christ, his one and only Son, who was, God in flesh. And then you have the Holy Spirit. So that's the traditional view of the Trinity. And I think that view of the Trinity falls apart many places just using scripture and logic. So, for instance, how can it be true that Jesus is the only Son of God when Jesus himself says that we are all brothers and sisters? We are his brothers and sisters. Therefore, you can then imply that Jesus is stating we are all children of God, and he is not the only Son of God. So that's one way that you can debunk that argument. Another way you can debunk that argument is very simply stating this. Jesus said that everybody can, not everybody, but those who followed him and had faith would do better things than him. That's what they said, that they would do better things, that Jesus said that you would do better things than him. But if Jesus is God, and by him saying you will do better things than him, he's then saying that you will do better things than God. So that doesn't make any sense either. Also, another thing that you can look at is when Jesus was praying in the garden. Who was Jesus praying to? He wasn't praying to himself, he was praying to God. Additionally, you can look at all the miracles Jesus performed. Never once did he say, worship me, thanks for your faith in me, that's why they're healed. No, the reason people were healed is because he stated it was your faith in the Father above as to why you were healed. So he took no credit, none of that. And he also mentioned that he would want us to be, us being his followers, connected as one with God as he is. That was his wish. And so Jesus in the Trinity purely represents humanity, because the Son of Man, translated in the Hebrew, if memory serves correctly, means humanity, means mankind. So if Jesus, when he refers to himself as the third person, titles himself the Son of Man, he's then saying he's humanity, he is mankind, he is the way mankind should follow in order to reconnect with God. But we can all be like Jesus. As a matter of fact, we are called to do as Jesus did and better things than Jesus had done. And that includes raising the dead, that includes healing the sick, that includes walking on water, that includes turning water to wine. All these miracles were not exclusive to Jesus. Jesus says that we can do those things. He trained his disciples to do those things in their faith. So, God is homie forever and ever. Fact. So, you then see that Jesus is the representation of mankind and what mankind should do in order to reconnect with God. You can also see when Jesus is baptized that the Holy Spirit is bestowed upon him, implying that it wasn't in him before that moment. But if he was God, then the Holy Spirit would always be with him. So, the Trinity, the truth of the Trinity, is that there is a heavenly Father, and mankind is the son, the daughter, the child of God. And then the Holy Spirit is the connector of God. It is what connects the ego, the physical body, to the spiritual realm. That is the truth of the Trinity, in my opinion. This way, I can't kick you off of TikTok. Yeah, thanks. Now you're gonna kick me off of YouTube, but I think we'll get appeal. I think we'll win that appeal, because I didn't say anything harmful or hateful in that. I just don't think that they like me talking about Christianity. Although the other days I was over here, bragging about how good Islam is, because Islam gets it. Muslims are more based than Christians in a lot of ways. Christians have become very weak over time. I think that Islamic countries will win at the end of the day. That's what I think. And Christian countries, unfortunately, will perish, and it's because we do not realize simple truths in the world. We do not want to look at the book that we were given and say, yo, this is true, even the Old Testament. Now, obviously, a lot of it has been grabbled, a lot of it has been subverted over time, because it's man-made and man does what man does. But there is a lot of truth in the Bible, and it is important to also, in my opinion, not take everything in the Bible literally, Because even in the Bible, it says, for instance, the story of Sarah and Abraham wasn't, Paul says the story of Abraham and Sarah was an allegory. Paul says that, I believe, in Corinthians, if I'm not mistaken. So, we have to realize that there's a lot of things that can be taken literal, but there's also a lot of metaphors, analogies, and simply styles of teaching in the Bible that aren't acknowledged by many. I can't say I've never, but there was a time when, I thought that the literal interpretation was correct. But then if you're really going to think, you cannot think that the literal interpretation is going to be correct. So, yeah, we had Gunnar asked me about my thoughts on GAY rights. I already expressed that. I don't think that. I mean, what do you mean exactly? What do you mean exactly by GAY rights? What do you mean? What do you mean? Right to live? I mean, I guess. Right to perform their acts in public? Definitely not. They can do what they want to do in their bedroom. I mean, it is what it is. You can't really control somebody and what they're going to do in private. That's kind of what you do in your bedroom is what, you do between you and God. It's not just you and you. It's you and God at that point. And no good. Their rights are rights. Right, exactly. Their rights are rights. That's 100% right. That's a comment from YouTube. So, yeah, I mean, it's nonsense. I don't agree with it. I think that, once again, the Muslims have a much more sound view on the LGBTQ movement than does Christians. Christians are very weak. They've just given up a lot of ground. Now we have converged churches where they're like, yo, we have a woman pastor, and we also, accept the GAYs. You don't see that in Islamic churches, in the mosque, because they listen to what they were taught, and also it just goes against nature. I mean, the whole reason of procreate, the whole reason of sex is to procreate. That's like the main biological driver. Obviously, you can have fun, but it's very empty to have that kind of fun with somebody you don't love. And I don't think that you can love somebody in a GAY relationship. I don't. I think it's actually the opposite of it. We have these terms like, oh, they effed me. Oh, wow, you really effed me there. Nobody says that as a term of endearment. It's always like bad. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that it ain't good. But, you're going to do what you're going to do. And I'm not saying that, I'm perfect or anything like that. There are faults that I have. Gluttony is my main one. I used to struggle with lust a lot, but worked on that over the years. So yeah, like that whole thing is I mean, come on. We had this whole month of Pride Month. Come on. It doesn't make the only sense it makes is to groom. That's all. Why else would you have these parades? These parades are disgusting. I remember one time I freaked some people out. We were at this bar, me and my buddies from Michigan. We were in Michigan. We were in Kalamazoo, I think, and we were at this bar that had a rooftop lounge, which is pretty cool. So you can oversee the city. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It might be called Skyline or something. And we were up there. We were having a good time, and it was during Pride Month, and they were having a parade. And me and my buddies, We're drinking, having a good time, shooting the shit, telling stories, catching up and everything. And we go over to the ledge, the roof, look down, see what's going on. And there was this couple next to us. And I was like, I said something along the lines of, those FAGs sure look like they're having a lot of fun down there, huh? And they just gave me the dirtiest look. They didn't say a word. They didn't know how to react to that because, political correctness. But, in the Midwest and the Northeast, this is the way people talk with one another. Men call each other the F word and, they call each other homos and stuff like that. Like, this is just what you do in the Midwest and the Northeast. It's just something you do. But some people don't like that, and they get very offended because they're weak. That's the reason why. I mean, if you're getting offended over words, you're weak. It's pretty obvious that right now we don't have any. We lack strong men in society, as I always talk about, and that's why we lack, I think, a lot of good women, because women need male leadership, and men need God as their leader. And so we have a bunch of confused, I don't know if I will say godless, but we have a bunch of confused men, which then in turn leads to confused women and a confused society. Trinity is not scriptural. I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Like the way it's described, yeah. Yeah, I mean, nowhere in the Bible does it say there's a Trinity. But you can, do some induction to the Trinity. And it's been debated for thousands of years. That's the other thing, too. It's been debated as to what the real meaning of what the Trinity is, whether it's real or not. This is something that's been going on for thousands of years to this day. So, but, and that's the other thing here, too. Like, men, I feel, have become so complacent with their religion that they don't even question it themselves because they're afraid to shatter their own belief system. And so that's a huge reason why men are lost. And then once again, that in turn leads to women being lost. Because regardless of what modern day society will tell you in the Western world, women need male leadership. And look at this. I just got banned again. Off of this one, and I did nothing hateful. So I'm submitting an appeal. I don't know what's going on. I should have just called it quits 2 seconds ago, but it is what it is. Not that big of a deal. We'll keep it rolling. But yeah, guys. So I'm gonna call it a day. We've been on here for about an hour and a half. Thank you all for showing up, and we will be back live on Monday. And hopefully by that time we'll have all this nonsense squared away. Much love. Peace.